Welcome to Epic Card Game Lab. I'm Kyle Edwards, and I have another Epic deck profile for the base set format. As I discussed in an earlier video, the base set format is incredible because it's coming out on the Epic Card Game app Alpha as the only constructed format at the beginning, and then also it's a great constructed format to introduce new players into constructed. So without anything further, we'll go ahead and we'll get into the deck here. This deck that we're featuring is what you consider more of a control deck. Now, why it's called control deck is because it controls the tempo of your opponent and the pace of the game, essentially prolonging the game. And the reason it does this is because it has more cards that are available to generate card advantage over basically an attrition of the game, in the long term. So it's essentially seeking to stall out the game as long as possible so that it can slowly take advantage of its incremental advantage. Basically, at the beginning, there's going to be parity, but as it plays more and more cards, it's going to have more cards than its opponent. So basically, it'll at some point be able to dominate them with a greater number of resources. So this is a 3-color deck. It has evil cards, good cards, and also sage cards. It doesn't play any wild cards because there aren't a whole lot of wild cards that meet this end, and we're also trying to conserve and maximize certain colors for loyalty, and then also for an ally ability and good, as you'll see. So to get started, the deck has 3 Angel of Death, 3 Medusa, 3 Dark Assassin, 3 Drain Essence, 3 Bitten, 3 Plague, 1 Apocalypse, 1 Demon Breach, 3 Plentiful Dead, 3 Wither, 2 Corpse Taker, 2 Unquenchable Thirst. For good cards, it has 3 Inner Peace, 3 Ceasefire, 3 Inheritance of the Meek, 3 Palace Guard, 3 Watchful Gargoyle, 3 White Dragon, 3 Ancient Chant, 3 Thought Plucker, 2 Erase, 3 Hasty Retreat, and 1 Amnesia. Now, this deck, it's a pretty sweet deck. It's sweet for a number of reasons. First of all, like all the decks that I'm going to try to feature, I haven't come up with a reason to stray from this. It maximizes the number of free cards in its deck, so it's maximizing that. Also, something else it maximizes is cards it's available to play on its opponent's turn that cost a gold. You'll notice that all but 9 cards in this deck, that's 3 play sets, require you, only 3 play sets require you to play the gold on your turn, whereas all other cards are able to play on your opponent's turn. So as long as you're drawing cards and getting card advantage, which you will in this deck because there's plenty of it, you will be able to basically play a card on every turn, so you will never be missing out on spending your gold. Alright, so to get into the card choices, we have 3 Angel of Death. This is a very powerful card in that it's a sweeper that can also basically give you some tempo because it leaves you with a champion to be able to block or attack or do whatever with. So Angel of Death's a very good card, but obviously it requires a heavy evil commitment. However, this deck has 50% of its cards are evil, so the ability to reveal for the loyalty is going to be honestly pretty easy. Not too hard, especially with the amount of cards this deck can draw. Same goes for Medusa. Excellent card. It's a great ambush champion to surprise your opponent and also take out one of their champions. Gains you tempo like Kong, basically allowing you to eliminate one of their champions that they've spent a gold on, and you spend a gold as well, but you're left with the Medusa. Dark Assassin. Card advantage engine in that it can repeatedly remove one of their champions every turn. He's a bit weak. He's a 7-2 defense, so a lot of things can take him out. and he requires loyalty, but yet again, we have half of our deck evil, so we should be able to get that. 3 Drain Essence. Drain Essence is very important in this deck because of, as the previous deck that we had that had a bunch of wild cards, there's a lot of burn in the format, and you're going to need to survive. And this card can take out a champion while gaining 9 life, which is very crucial so that you can survive to basically make any long-term advantage you get a possibility, because you can get all the cards you want, but if your opponent burns you out, then the game's over and none of that mattered. We have Bitten. It's just a nice, basically, removal spell, able to get rid of one of their champions, and it gives you basically gives you a zombie. The reason we play this one over the one that gives you a demon is because if you play it on your opponent's turn, they get the champion, and you'd rather them have the smaller champion, considering the style of deck that you have, and you'd love the option to be able to play it on their turn. So that's the reason we play that. Plague, 3 Plague and 1 Apocalypse. The reason we play 3 Plague and 1 Apocalypse is because we like Plague better than Apocalypse. They both break all champions on your turn. Yes, Apocalypse can draw you extra cards, but we already have a good amount of ways to draw extra cards. And Plague has the added bonus of being able to draw extra cards on your opponent's turn, still drawing 2. Sure, you have to recycle as one of those draws. But you can also take out a swarm of tokens, so I think it's very good, especially if someone's running a human token swarm strategy. Just 1 Demon Breach to finish it out because, well, I like, I could play another Apocalypse, but I like 1 Demon Breach just for the fact that Demon Breach, it's got Recall, so you never really want to draw 1. Sure, it loses you some life, which isn't the greatest in this deck, but it can actually be a good finisher and a couple of surprise blockers. I mean, it's 8 power and defense worth of blockers on their turn. Plentiful Dead. Plentiful Dead is a great card in a heavy evil deck, especially one that utilizes loyalty. Because you can just keep getting these back and back and always have loyalty. If you have 2 of these in your discard pile and you top deck any evil card that requires 2 loyalty, you can just pay 2 life and be able to get that loyalty because you can resolve your triggers in any order you choose. So you just choose to resolve your Plentiful Dead triggers first, get your 2 Plentiful Deads back, and then reveal for your loyalty, basically enabling you always do that. And you can pump out a lot of tokens with this, especially if you're playing an evil card on your turn and on their turn. That's 2 extra evil, 2 extra zombies every turn. And sure, you have to pay some life, but a zombie blocking a 2 power champion is going to be worth the 1 life paid, because then in a way that's going to net you a life by playing the card. 3 Wither, great against any kind of token swarm, and just can kill all sorts of different other champions. Kills Dark Assassin, in the mirror match. Also kills Muse and other good champions, but it also stops any kind of token swarm, whether those are zombies, wolves, or humans. 2 Corpse Taker. We played 2 Corpse Taker because we, just to make all of our numbers match. That's all we can afford in terms of evil, considering the number. Since we have 20 evil gold cards, we can have up to 10 free evil cards in our deck, just per the deck construction rules. And I want to play only two Unquenchable Thirst, because Unquenchable Thirst, while it's a great card, and since we're not completely evil, usually your second Unquenchable Thirst isn't going to do a lot, and it's going to be a dead draw. So I only play 2 because I really only want to draw 1 a game, but I do want to draw that 1 a game. So that's the reason I play 2. And so to round it out, Corpse Taker is just a good card. He gets back one of your champions that cost a gold. So basically he doesn't use a card when you play him from your hand, and then you can also banish cards from discard pile, which is always good, especially if you're playing an attrition deck versus an attrition deck matchup. You're going to want to be able to get rid of their cards that are going to recall to give them a long-term advantage, because you want to get more of a long-term advantage against them in that match. So that's all of our evil cards. Like I said, half the deck, so you're going to be able to get those loyalty triggers. Now our next most color is good. We have 3 Inner Peace. And so because we have 3 Inner Peace, I tried to fit as many good cards as I could in the deck. that I still wanted to play in this color. Good has a lot of cards that are more aggressive because they build into token swarm strategies, but there are still a good number of good cards that go in a control deck. And Inner Peace is the crux of this deck, because without Inner Peace, this deck cannot work. Because of the amount of burn in the format, you will die, and while you're getting all the card advantage in the world, when you're dead, it doesn't matter. So you need Inner Peace. And so we play 3, because we always want to draw, and they're great in multiples. If you have 2 Inner Pieces going, then you don't have to draw any other good cards. But we've got some other good cards that cost a gold, because that's important, because the free good cards will not trigger Inner Peace to return and recall to your hand. So we play 3 Ceasefire. Great card, especially if you have a removal. Basically, it creates a gambit situation where they have to decide, okay, does he have removal or an ambush blocker, so that I can't, or especially an ambush blocker, which you do have, so that he can block my entire attacking team, or they can have Ceasefire. So it makes it put them in between a rock and a hard place if they don't know what kind of cards you have in your hand. 3 Inheritance of the Meek. I like this a little bit better than Divine Judgment. Sure, it only gets non-tokens, so it's not as good against token swarms, but we already have a good amount of cards against token swarms, because we do have 3 Plague, we have 3 Wither, so we do have game against tokens. But I love the fact that you can play this on your opponent's turn, and sure, they're going to draw a card, but it's well worth it sometimes when you can stop a lethal play. And like Divine Judgment, it still also will draw 2 cards. All right, the last card in our deck that we have to play on our opponents, or during our turn with our gold, is Palace Guard. And Palace Guard is just another good removal champion, basically a tempo card. If you remove, one of their cards that they spent their gold to play, for instance, like Drinker Blood or something, you can just play this, remove it. And the fact that it banishes is nice, because some champions, such as like Trihorror or Soul Hunter, you don't want to break those. Okay, so that rounds out our good cards that cost a gold. And now basically, as our free cards that we're allowed to play, because we play 4 play sets of those, we're able to play 2 play sets of free cards. Watchful Gargoyle, probably honestly, in this sort of deck, the best sort of 0 good card that you can play, just for the fact that it's an ambush blocker that recycles. Next best option, considering we're only playing the base set, is probably White Dragon, just because it recycles, and it's a blocker, and it's a 5/5 body, so it's actually not bad. You can block demon tokens all day without him dying, and he also has Airborne, which is relevant. And you can also just attack for the game, and he doesn't always get recycled, but a lot of your good cards you do want to play on your turn. You don't necessarily have to play, but your a couple of your sweepers you do want to play on your turn, so it makes sense. Okay, so that rounds out our good cards. Now we have our Sage cards to finish up. The Ancient Chant. Ancient Chant, just because this deck doesn't have as much draw as we would like. And so Ancient Chant's a great draw engine, basically always gives you something, and if you're trying to attrition out opponents, it's a great draw. You can also recycle Ancient Chant, and when you do that, the card doesn't self-recycle, but you can use it as fodder for another card that recycles. And when you do that, you get an extra card. So that's a nice little added bonus. Especially if you have 2 Ancient Chants, that's a great play to do, because honestly, you don't need 2 Ancient Chants in your discard pile. Thought Plucker. Just great card advantage card. The ability to grind them out. This card can do a lot of work on its own. Honestly, most Sage decks in this format want to play this card just for the sheer fact of how powerful it can be if unanswered. Rounding that out, we got 2 Erase. Just 2, because we'd rather have 3 of each of the other cards. And, I mean, you could maybe play only 2 Ancient Chant, but I kind of want to reliably make sure I have one of those in this deck. And so Erase, kind of finishes those out. It's just, answers to not get killed by champions, but also, get you some card advantage. Tempo neutral card. Hasty Retreat, nice defensive card. This deck is mostly going to be defensive, so the fact that you can't play it on your turn to get rid of one of their blockers, honestly, you don't really care too much about. You love the fact that it's a free card that's going to answer one of their champions, and especially with your Plentiful Dead, you're probably always going to have a blocker, also your Watchful Gargoyle. And to round it out, a 1 of Amnesia, because this is going to be good in any sort of attrition mirror match where they're also trying to gain advantage over time and have cards like Inner Peace or other card advantage cards that are going to recall from the graveyard or recycle as well. So this is a good card just to kind of have as a 1 of to answer anything like that. So that basically rounds out the deck. Like I said, the point of the deck is just to slow the game down, stall out, and slowly get advantage over time, and then you will piece together a win because you still have a good amount of champions. I mean, you have 3 Angel Death, 3 Medusa, 3 Dark Assassin, which he does have Blitz, so sometimes you can just get in for 7 Blitz. You do have Demon Breach, Plentiful Deads, and then also your Palace Guard, and a couple of free champions that are able to get in for the win. So it is going to take a while for you to eke out a win, but the name of the game is incremental advantage. So you're usually going to get an incremental damage. You know, attack with your Angel of Death, get in for 5 or 6 actually with Angel Death, wipe the board, reset, you know, make them redevelop everything, wipe the board again, draw some more cards, gain some health, and eventually you'll get there. So thank you for watching.